Hello fellows, Herogon here. November 2024 was quite the time for me, as I've had to learn about systems design at Full Sail University. From creating my own dice game to playing the Battle for Wesnoth, there's a lot that I've tried learning, especially with Google Sheets. I also enjoyed a nice Thanksgiving with my family, eating ribs and stuffing. I guess for me, those crazy time turkeys, Reggie and Jake succeeded in going back in time to the first Thanksgiving to get turkeys off the menu. As for this old Funlog, I'm afraid we're close to the end of covering Shawnthebro's fighting game framework. December will be considered a finale to publicly sharing a chapter of my life that was amazing for what it was. A sort of diary into how I did with Shawnthebro's tutorials, be it every week, every 2 weeks, or every month. With that said, let's jump into the Funlog. November 3rd provided some updates to match history and news entries. This included saving our news data entry data out, loading in match history data, and further improvements to saving and loading our game. In mySaveGameData.h, we've added 2 array variables that will cover our news entries and match history. These variables are, of course, named news entries and match history entries, with the former's t-array being based in a Boolean value, while the latter's t-array takes from fMatchHistory entry. Before we can use these new variables, however, we must set their default values in the SaveGameData.cpp. In BaseGameInstance.cpp, to reference certain values like the news entries or match history, we need to include mySaveGameData.h in our include area. Next up was the SaveGame function, which saw additions to our logic so we could save our match history and news data. First, we need to set the number of values to save, which is done by setting the number of our news entries that are cast via the local variable data2save. Then we should save each entry with all the necessary data via a for loop. In the for loop, we get data to save and cast it to match history entries, and then set it equal to the variable match history entries. In the load game function, we now have our for loop coding for setting the number of entries to load, as well as loading each entry as not read, false, or read, true, before the for loop. If, for instance, our match history entries is less than the data to load's match history entries, then we set the number of our match history entries to reference the data to load. Within our for loop, we will set something like match history entries equal to the data to load's match history entries. Now that the new logic is in, we can have our news and match history saved no matter what circumstance. Closing the game won't reset progress, and you'll be able to see your match data in one of the menus. Of course, when it comes to saving our game data, there's likely much more work to handle before it can be considered close to complete. November 8th was a different video, as Shawnthebro was a different video, as Shawnthebro covered using Trace and Unreal Insights in Unreal Engine. Why might these two things be important in a game engine? Well, we all know that takes a lot of work to optimize a game. Some of the guesswork has to be done ourselves, but with Unreal Insights, you can figure out where in your game and what functions are not the most optimized for gaming. While Unreal Insights covers how long you've had the editor open instead of in-game, we can still see which functions at what time are taking the most amount of time to process. There is still a lot to go through optimizing any game, but when it comes to using Unreal Engine, the journey should bring fruitful results. November 10th saw Shawnthebro cover further improvements on tag team matches. This involved tagging characters, hiding any inactive characters, and making the camera follow the active character. In character.h, we've made a new function called tag in. Tag in swaps to a reserve character on the team and returns true if this character was successful in tagging in. The input value is an F vector called tagoutLocation. In character.cpp, we'll first look at what tag-in does. Tag-in starts with if statements to check if our game instance is valid and the team mode type does not equal solo. If true, we can do the rest of our tag-in logic. We move our tagged-in character to the location of the tagged-out character with setActorLocation. Our input value is again tagoutLocation. Then we enable the collision on our tagged-in character as true, set our tagged-in character's actor hidden in game boolean to false, and return a value of true to indicate tagging in was successful. Otherwise, if tagging in is unsuccessful, then we return a value of false. Then in tagout, we now use the setActorEnableCollision and setActorHiddenInGame functions, just like tagin does, but with the former function using false and the latter function using true, respectively. In baseplayerController.cpp, the call tagout function has seen one line change for both teams. We now tag in our active player by letting the possessed pawn call tag in, using an input of tagoutLocation. TagoutLocation is done in call tagout by setting it equal to possessed pawn's actor location. Finally, we go to the blueprints, specifically the default camera BP. We move our nodes of setPlayerReference variables, which are also using validated get variables, of our active teams. We moved this logic from useCamera to eventTick at the moment, though I'm certain there are other ways of implementing such logic. The improvements made to tag teams are getting ever closer to what is expected from that concept in fighting games, though as we continue to work, there are bound to be more areas to optimize. November 17th was an easy tutorial coming from Shawnthebro. That week added identifiable names for the character and stage select, as well as cleaning up the select screens. While I had done something similar to this topic in the past, I am always happy to see how Shawnthebro has done logic for even little things like adding identifiable names to each character and stage selection in the select screens. The entirety of the tutorial was completed with only blueprints. First, we had to set some of the text in the UI to be variables used for deciding the name of our characters or stage. We shall start off in level select screen's move selection function, where we use a new function called set hovered stage name after the function determine button styles. Using current P1 selection as our input index, we set hovered stage text to use a select node in text. Depending on which stage button we are hovering on, the text will change to correspond with whatever name option we have made. Similar logic was done within character select screen as well, providing us with much cleaner logic than my initial stuff from long ago. November 17th may be one of the easiest tutorials I went through by far, at which might be saying something. Of course, when it comes to Unreal Engine, there will be many more ways of doing the same logical intentions, and I look forward to further improvements to the select screen logic. November 24th saw Shawnthebro covering in-game store purchases. This includes purchasing with in-game currency, unlocking items under certain conditions, and improving the shop menu. We all love purchasing stuff with in-game currency, right? It's been a common trope for as long as video game RPGs or any games with stores have been around. And parts of that concept were attempted on that very week, November 24th, 2024. In baseGameInstance.h, we've created a new Boolean function called purchaseItem, with an integer input called index-to-purchase. For our purchase item logic in the baseGameInstance.cpp, we check if our unlockable item is in a valid index. Then we do checks for if the item is not already unlocked and if the player's currency is greater than the cost of the item. If so, then we will set our total currency to have the unlockable item's currency cost subtracted from the former variable. Then we set the unlockable's data's isUnlocked Boolean for that item as true and return a Boolean value from purchase item as true, meaning that the item was purchased or unlocked. If we did not purchase or unlock the desired item, then we return a Boolean value of false from purchase item. Going into blueprints, we have to change one part of our confirm selection function in store item confirmation pop-up. After casting to our base game instance in the 0 spot of switch on integer, we call our new purchase item function, which uses the item unlockable index variable as our index to purchase. Then, with our return value boolean within purchase item, we drag out a branch and then connect our pre-existing logic to the true branch. If we have purchased the item, we remove the pop-up from the screen, start listening to any input actions from the creator widget, in our case the store UI for that, and refresh the items in the store UI. Note that we can only unlock items if we have enough in-game currency. Otherwise, if we press yes, the pop-up will not be removed, nor will the item be unlocked. This also goes for if the item is already unlocked, as we currently cannot have duplicates of items in the same index yet. In terms of this week's tutorial and my efforts towards following along, I believe Shawnthebro taught well, and I followed along well. There may be more to come with the in-game storefront, but that will come at a later time. Overall, November 2024's tutorials ended up being a breeze. Of course, there could be some expectations for those months, as all of us are kicking off the holidays. Whether it's Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and many other holidays from winter time in between. As I get even closer to getting an associate's degree from Full Sail, I hope everyone knows that prioritizing your education is a good thing. However, you should also feel free to find new connections, friendships, and fun around the corner. Credit again goes to Shawnthebro for all his work, which I've enjoyed going through across the years. It has been a lovely backbone for the fighting game framework, Funlogs, and I'm thankful for all Shawn has done to educate budding Unreal Engine users. I hope I can succeed as he has when working with Unreal Engine. With all that said, I hope you liked this video, so comment, like, and subscribe below if you have not already. I've been Herogon, and you've been you. Thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you all later.